Well, that was a lot of talking and a lot of wasted time. Let me see if I can attempt to recap the miming I was just doing for the last 15 minutes. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. So, I'm going to hide my face again. Boop. Okay, so the non-silent version, the non-mime version of what I just did, we got two tabs. We got our running tracking tab and our inventory tab, right? The whole point of what I am working on to show you this evening here is if you do any kind of sales, right? If you're selling commissions or if you are selling stickers across maybe more than one platform, right? So on Ko-fi as a service, it keeps track of the orders that come in and as they go out. But as a content creator, as someone who maybe makes commissions and sells stuff via PayPal and puts themselves on there on more than one platform, even though the individual platform will keep track of the thing you're doing, well, they all aren't in one place. So it starts to get a little convoluted to keep track of where all the different things live. So what we're looking at tonight is we're looking at putting together a sheet that'll just simply help us collate all of those different things into one area that you can look. So then you can know that the status of all of your Ko-fi orders and your PayPal stuff as a small content creator, right? If you're pushing a lot of orders, then this honestly probably wouldn't be for you. But if you're doing a handful of orders over the course of a month or two, then you might find this useful. So far, we've got on our main tracking tab our vendors, our order number, right? So that's going to be the order number that comes out of the PayPal purchase or the Ko-fi order that is going to go to your person, right? You'll put that in here. The amount of whatever they purchased, or excuse me, the description of what they purchased, because it's item purchase. Our quantity, so that's how many of each they did. The day they ordered it, this actual status of what you got going on, right? Whether it's been ordered or you're in the process of getting it ready, whether it's been delivered, things of that nature. And then our date fulfilled, a tracking number if that applies, and then the cost of the item. Now, if you've watched any of the previous podcasts, you'll notice that there's a lot of recurring themes here with tables. This example is going to be more of that. But we're also going to be adding on a VLOOKUP this time. And that I will explain when we get there. So, this particular table, I do know that I did not name, and I meant to. So, while we are over here, we're going to give this suit a friendly name. And this is our orders. So we're going to swing over to the Design tab. The Design tab only appears and shows its face when you are in the middle of in a table. If I click out of it, poof, it goes away. It's gone. If I click somewhere back in the table, well, then the Design tab reappears. Right. So we're going to name our table. These are our orders. Okay. So we have our orders. And I'm going to swing back over to our inventory tab. So we built out 4 tables in total over here. Right? So we've got our vendors. So these will be the options in our drop-down list on the other sheet. This is simply where we just build all the different options we want to be able to work with on the other tab. So then as you want to add options, delete options, or modify the ones you have, you do them all in one place. And then on your other sheet, you get to use them. Right? With that. Vendors. Right? So this is just a little table. And you can tell it's a table by me clicking in it, and the table tools appears. So all 4 of these are tables. I just made them all the same color. And we've got our vendors. In this case, we're going to use Ko-fi and PayPal as our example for our vendors. And then the items that we are offering for people to purchase. In this case, we've got an art commission, specifically a full body, and the cost of that pre-tax is $100. And then some sticker options. In this case, I did a lab coat sticker and Ram Pillow sticker. Right? $4, $5. And then we have our statuses. So our statuses are digital delivered, because naturally with something like a full body commission, that's something that you're not going to stick in a box and ship it somewhere, unless you're doing a print, in which case, yes, you may be shipping it. But if it's just digital, then that's one of the options, right? And then we have our other statuses, as it goes. So, each of these tables have a name. Our status table is our status table, right? Our items is our items table. Same thing for vendors. Same thing for inventory, right? So the whole idea of naming your table with something like that, that it appears to be incredibly obvious, is that when you start to build formulas and you're working with it on your neighboring sheets, you want to be able to understand what you're pulling from where. And if you give these things helpful names instead of the default table 1, table 15, you have a better idea of keeping track of your stuff. So, with that, more or less caught up. So we're going to finish filling out our items that we are going to make available quantity-wise. Right, so the lab coat stickers. So we'll say that we got a pack of 20 that we have available to offer. And we're going to put in today's date. I don't have a comment for that. And we'll also do, we'll say we'll have 10 of the other stickers. So, now that we have that built, we're going to do a couple of other things. So, as it stands right now, this table does have a name, right? It's the vendors table. And if I come over here, and I go to make that a drop-down option, right? So I'm going to go to data, data validation, and we're going to choose a list option. If I try to make that equal to our vendors list and click OK, it's not going to be happy with me. And the reason it's not going to be happy with me is that for whatever reason, in the way Microsoft built Excel, you can't call directly on the name of a table inside of the data validation. You can name a range, which can point to a table, which is what we're going to do, but you can't use the name of the table directly. So let's fix it. I'm going to swing back over here. And then we're going to go under formulas. We are going to go to the name manager. The name manager collates everything across all the individual tabs that appear inside of your workbook. So you can have 20 different tabs, and if there's a name declared in a table or a named range, it's going to appear in this list. So we're going to make some new ones. I'm going to point this, and this is going to be our vendor's range. I like to do underscores instead of camel case when it comes to the names. Personal preference. And then I'm going to click on the little symbol. And then I'm going to click just above the word, the D in vendors here, just somewhere low, right? If I go too high and I click, well, it shoots off into outer space. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to get just the table. Now you can see here, remember how I mentioned that it's helpful to give these helpful names? Well, this is referring to the vendors table, and it's referring to the vendors column, because the name of the column and the name of the actual table are the same thing, which is why it shows up twice. I'm going to copy that, click OK, and then I'm going to click Close. And now I'm going to show you now that we have it as a range, what that does. So we're swinging back over to here. And then I'm going to click so that it highlights just the stuff. And we're going to go to Data, Validation. We want our list just like we're going to do before. We can do an equal symbol and then the name of the range, right? So vendors underscore range, and click OK. Now, inside of these cells, we now only have two options, coffee and PayPal. If I try to put something in here that's neither of those two options, like Best Buy, look at her. It's going to tell me to take a hike. because it's not valid. Later on in the example, when we're going to do some filtering to make it a little easier to look at the stuff you put in here, you'll see why this is relevant, but Excel takes everything literally. So if I didn't add the data validation and just allowed you to type the words coffee and have a space in between, or a dash, or an underscore, it's going to treat those as all different things, which doesn't do any good when you're trying to filter it. It makes for messy data. The whole point of data validation is to make it so that you lock in your cells to only be the available options you give it. So in this case, I'll click cancel because I don't need that. And now we have coffee as an example. Now, granted, I could type that, right? And click enter, and it works. Or I could do control single quote, have it type it for me, which is super helpful. We have a bunch of the same thing, right? Okay, we're not worried about any kind of validation inside of our orders table, because what we end up putting in here is just going to be whatever comes from those other platforms. So naturally, anything can appear in here, and if you're filtering for this particular column, then it's going to be likely for a specific order you want. So naturally, we can't do any validation on this. Our items purchased, we now have our list of available items to buy. That is our items table. So from here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to name this range, right? Now the table's named items, so we'll do the same thing. We'll call this items underscore range. So we'll go back over to the formulas tab, pull up our name manager, do a new one. And we're going to call this our items underscore range. And then we're going to point that to our just the item's description, right? I'm not including the class pre-tax because we don't want it in our drop-down menu. Click OK. And now we'll come over to here. And we will now do the same thing. Data validation. We're going to bang it out as a list, equal symbol and the name of our range. We'll click OK. And now, we have only the options that we're selling and available in our list to be able to choose from. Quantity is going to be a number, so that's perfectly fine to just leave as it is. If push comes to shove, you could add validation to this, but honestly, I don't really find it worth it. You'll clearly see if a number's not in there. And away you go, right? Date's fine. Status. This is another list we're going to make. So, I'm going to swing back over to here. And we're also going to name a range. Nope, that's not what I want. We are going to name a range. Where am I at here? Bop, 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 bop. I'm in here somewhere. Come on, brain. Formulas, name manager. And this is going to be our status range. Now granted, I could type that. I could type the name of the table, square brackets, and the name of the column. Or I could just click. It saves you some typing, so I prefer clicking. But you absolutely could just type in here. Another thing I could have did is I actually could have made all three of these at the same time, instead of bouncing back and forth and building it one piece at a time. I find that if you just focus on the one thing and what it's going to be used for, it's easier not to get lost when push comes to shove. So, we'll say close. And then we're going to go back over to data, validation, and then we're going to do our status range. And click OK. So now, we got our statuses. We have our date fulfilled column, some tracking, well, for tracking number purposes, things of that nature, and the cost of our item. So, we now know on this tab, we have 2 full body art commissions available in 30 different stickers, right? Now, as we use them, we would want to know how many that we have left, because if we're going to have a running total of all this different stuff, well, we want to know what we've used, because if we're down to the last 5 stickers, we might want to order some more, but we won't know that if we don't know how many we have left. So, here's what we're going to do with that. I'm going to toss some stuff in here so we have something visually to see. So we'll do 2 coffee orders. Oops. Haha! Data validation saves me again. In 2 PayPal orders. And we'll just say it's order number, 5235. I'll just, oh, nope, I want to go sequentially. 5236. So on and so forth. Now, we'll say one of those was a set of stickers. One of them's a commission. And we'll say that they ordered 2 of each, and maybe 1 of the art commissions. You'll choose the date they're ordered. And now in this particular case, all these items are just ordered, because we haven't done anything yet with them, right? So, we're going to add some coloring. And to make this easier to see, I'm going to choose actually 1 of each. Just so we have something to play with here. Oops, that's a date. There we go. Okay. A sheet that you have that you are going to enter your stuff into. It helps to have some colors, so it's easier to look at what you have instead of having to actually read the word ordered, right? Well, why can't it just be a color? So then you can see visually when you look at the sheet, if there's a bunch of orange ones, well, they're ordered. If it's in process, maybe it's yellow. And if it's been shipped or digitally delivered, green, because you're done with it. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that based on our statuses. So, let's cook this up. That is all based on what we call conditional formatting. So, I'm going to highlight our entire table and go to conditional formatting. Going to manage our rules. Now, the thing about Excel is that you could have conditional formatted rules that appear kind of everywhere. It doesn't have to be on one specific table. It could be applied individually to a bunch of different little cells. So this list could actually get incredibly noisy. In this case, we're only looking at just this table. And it shows that in this dropdown because that's what I have highlighted. If I had not highlighted that and highlighted just an individual cell, it would only show the formatting rules for just that cell. We're going to choose a new based on a formula. And we are going to say that our status is in column F. So we will say if $symbol F1 is equal to ordered inside of double quotes. We go to our preview. We'll choose a nice orange color. We'll say OK. Click apply. And then fix this because Excel's got a sense of humor. It's A through I. And then edit the rule again because Excel again has a sense of humor. Okay. So we look at our formula. If dollar symbol F1 is equal to ordered, it turns this color. It's peach color. So I'm gonna click OK. And OK again. So when the status of this changes from ordered to something else, the color's gonna go away because I've only applied the color just to the word ordered. So now we know that this lab coat sticker's ordered. We need to do something about it because we haven't fulfilled it yet. And we also didn't fill out our date fulfilled. So visually we could look at this and go, oh, look at that. I have to do something with this. And it's through Coffee. So I can log into the Coffee portal, do what I gotta do, get them their stuff shipped. They'll get their email and come back to my sheet and change the status. Let's rack up some colors for the other ones. So this is a little easier to look at. So we're going to make more of the same kind of rule. And it's going to all be based on that same column. So I'm actually just going to copy that and make a new rule based on a formula. And then instead of ordered, we're going to do our in progress. And we'll choose a yellow. And now you can see something right here. I specifically did not have the table selected, right? Partially did that on purpose. You see how it shows this dotted line dancing around F2? You can see what it applies to over here in the list. But it actually visually will show you what that rule is going to apply to. It doesn't do us any good if it's only going to talk to the very first cell in our table. We want to look at the whole table as we make changes, just like the other one. So we're going to modify it to be the same way. So it's going to be exactly the same range, so instead of me typing it, I'm just going to paste it. And click apply. Now, something you'll notice is that it's not right. For whatever reason, Excel will change this. I'm not entirely sure why. But we're looking at F1. And you may ask me, why am I telling you to type a dollar symbol? And I don't talk about what the dollar symbol's for. Well, the dollar symbol locks the formula. If you put it before the F, it locks the column that it's looking at. So that means it's only going to look up and down. And if you put it after the F, double dollar symbol, so dollar symbol, F dollar symbol, it locks it to just that cell. So then it won't go in either direction. Now, if you omit the dollar symbol in the front, then it's going to go across rows. It'll look left and right. And for what we're looking to do with the coloring, even though it sounds like that's what we'd want, we want to lock it to the column. We don't want to lock it to the row. I realize that doesn't really probably sound like it makes a lot of sense, but this is just one of those idiosyncrasies that happens inside of Excel. So it goes. Okay, got a couple of more here. Also got our refunded. So dollar symbol F1 is equal to double quote refund, R-E-F-U-N-D, which is not a status that as the content creator you really want to look at, but life goes on. I'm going to make this an exceptionally icky color to look at. We'll make it like red text, we'll make it bold, the black fill, because why? We want it to stand out. Okay. Now for the next one, purposely skipped over the shipped and digital delivery because that technically means we're done, right? Well, we want the same color for two different things. We're going to do that with one rule. We want the color to apply to two different things, right? So it's going to be shipped or digitally delivered. So we could string together two different conditions inside of this box to make both of those appear with one rule. It helps to do that, to make that list of all your conditional formatted cells to be shorter. It's much easier to look at. So we're going to say OR, and then we're going to just put both of the conditions we want inside of the OR, inside of our braces. So we're going to do $F1 is equal to a double quote in the word shipped, and then a comma, and then our other condition, $F1 is equal to double quote digital delivered, and then close our parenthesis. Now, could choose a nice green. Fix our range. And then unbrick the formula, because Excel's cute. Okay. So now, we have one coloring rule for the two different delivery statuses. And it only shows up in here twice because we gave it both conditions that we want for that color. So now as things change in our table, colors are going to change too. I'm going to take a moment here and save. Because if you're not saving, you'll be sad. I had Excel crash in one of the previous streams, and then I was sad. It's very important to save. You can either click on the little disky icon, or hit on your keyboard Control-S. Bada bing, bada boom. Alright, now we're saved. We're looking good. So now, we are going to ride this out with the next piece of gobbledygook that's going to look like complete gibberish. We know some stuff and/or things. We come over here, we know that the cost of an art commission whole body is $100, right? Well, if we want to see that on the other tab, we already know that that's the dollar amount that matches with this item that we're selling. So let's make it appear on the other sheet. We're going to have Excel come over here and get it. Okay, so there's two pieces to this. I'm going to show you the broken way first, and then we're going to fix it. It's a part of the process. The name of the function is called VLOOKUP. And what VLOOKUP does, it looks in a table of information for the thing you give it, and then returns the column you want to give back. So in our case, we want to look up our lab coat sticker. And what we want to appear in here is what the cost of the sticker is. So our lookup value is going to be this, the item, right? So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to do a comma. The table array is where we're looking for this. So I'm going to click on the other tab. And then I'm going to click on the top here to then have it type in for me, because we're looking in our items table, because that's why we called it. This is when it matters. This is why you name your tables, because we know that we're looking for the item that they purchased. We want to look amongst the items descriptions, because that's what they purchased via. And then we're going to toss a comma in there. And then the hit's a little confusing here. It says call underscore index num. What this is what column number that we're returning in the table we're looking at. So right now we're looking at the items table. There's two columns, right? There's the description, which is right here in H. And then there's the cost, pre-tax. That's the number we want to return. That's number 2. Excel always starts its count with tables with 1. If you're someone who's familiar with programming languages, you might know that the computer as itself indexes at 0. Excel doesn't do that with tables. Tables always start with column 1. If you give it a 0, it'll bark at you. In this case, we want to return 2 because that's where our cost is. So we'll do a 2. Close the paren and click enter. And I made a mistake. I love making mistakes. Oh, that's the mistake I made. Ha! I want to look at all of the options, not just one. What do you mean no? Been purchased. Oh, I didn't declare the whole table. Yep. Let me start that over. This is one of those things. Excel's incredibly powerful, but if you don't give it exactly what it needs, it doesn't work right. That's a broken reference. So I'm going to build this again, and I'm going to look at my notes because I did this earlier. So we're doing a VLOOKUP. We are looking at all of the things, right? Because this formula is gonna be for everything that appears in the table. So I should have clicked on the column. Our table array is the entire table. This is a mistake I made. I was supposed to give it everything. So, items. Now Excel knows that there's 2 columns to this table. Column 1, column 2. A comma. And this I got right. It was 2 because we want to return the price. I'm going to close it and hit enter. Okay. So there's some stuff here that Excel did that we wanted and then things we didn't want, right? So we already know that these are, this is a money, right? Because it's items. So we're going to come up with our formatting. Format it as money. Because as we knew, our full body commission was $100, right? And that's what it pulled. And then our lab coat sticker was $4. And the RAM pillow was $5. And if I come back over here, that's what you'll see. Full body's $100. Lab coat stickers $4. The pillow's $5. Looks pretty good. But what do we got going on over here, right? We have a bunch of no goods, right? Because what did it do? It's looking for nothing in the table. Well, when you look for nothing, you have nothing, so it's going to be broken, right? You're going to have an NA because it's not applicable to the lookup because there's nothing in the table that's equal to nothing. Now, if I added something equal to nothing, then it would fill a bunch of zeros in there. But we don't really want to do that because we're going to have a bunch of zeroed out costs. What we would really rather have is just a bunch of empty cells, right? Because we have a bunch of empty cells here, and as we enter stuff, then the relevant information appears, right? So let's fix it. I'm going to click on the first one, and I'm going to come back up to the formula bar, and I'm going to add something around the VLOOKUP, right? So the way Excel works is that if you give it multiple items in the formula bar, it works from the outside in, right? So I'm going to tell this if error, open up a parenthesis, and then you see there's the word value, and value if error. A dollar symbol ref, R-E-F, which appeared in here earlier, and a dollar symbol NA, or really any of the other dollar symbol error codes in Excel, is considered a value of error. So, If that happens, I'm going to do a comma, and I'm going to add 2 double quotes. Close it, and hit enter. So now, as you can see in here, there's a formula in here, but there's nothing displaying. If I click through these cells, the formula bar still shows this, right? What that did, we got to read from the outside in. So it says, if an error, we're now going to look up our item that we purchased inside of our items table and give us back the price. If it doesn't come back with a valid number, because in our table we only have numbers, then display nothing. So doing a set of empty double quotes and closing the parenthesis then says that if there's an error, don't worry about it, don't put anything in the cell. And the nice thing is that since this is a lookup and you didn't actually have to type this, if the thing you have changes, it changes it. Because it looks it up, because it's a different item now. So you don't have to be bouncing back and forth to know what that item costs. It's just there, because you already told Excel, here it is, this is what I want. I'm going to save again, because saving is important with Excel. Very much so. So, with that in mind, we now have a little bit of a framework, but we do have some improvements we can make here. Specifically with the colors, right? So, as we can see right now, we have, let's see here, 2 orders that are ordered and they're not fulfilled, so there shouldn't be anything in here. 1 that's in progress and it's not fulfilled. But we have 2 orders that are completed and we didn't fill in a date. Well, how do we know when we did it? We marked it green. We must have finished it at some point. So, what we could do with Excel is we could say that when we have either digitally delivered or shipped, to make that cell red if there's nothing in it. So then that way, if we forget to put in the date, it's instantly going to change colors and yellowness. So then that way, you can't miss it. It's going to jump out at you. And you're going to open your sheet and go, oh, hang on a minute. And go log in and get the information so then you know. So let's do that. Okay, so we're looking at G. Specifically just the date fulfilled, right? Because this is the only column that we want to worry about adding those additional colors. So I'm only going to highlight G. And we're going to manage our rules. And we're going to add a new rule based on a formula. And then we're going to cook up some stuff here. We're going to have a couple different things happening here. So I'm going to type it out, and then I'm going to explain it out. So we're going to do and, or, $F1 is equal to, a set of double quotes, the word digital delivered. Spell check won't save me in here if I do it wrong, so I need to type it right. A comma, and then $symbol F1 equal to double quotes, shipped. I'm going to close that parenthesis, and then I'm going to do a comma. And then $symbol G1 equal to 2 double quotes. Close the parenthesis. Okay. A lot going on here. So let's talk about it. Like any formula in Excel, we read from outside in, right? So the word and means that both of the conditions inside have to be true for the formatting to apply. So that means that and this both have to be true for the formatting to apply. Now inside of the and we have an or. So that says that if F1 is equal to digital deliver, or it's equal to shipped, and G1 is empty, because it's equal to double quotes with nothing in between, right? They're butt up against each other, there's no space. Then the formatting applies. And in this case, we want it to stand out, so we're going to make it red. That kind of red that hurts your face. We're going to have to fix this, because we want... I want all of G. Well, that's the length of the table, that's actually okay. Nope, it's not okay. It's going to make me do it this way, isn't it? It is shortly after it breaks my formula. Thank you, Excel. Okay. I'm going to save again. Because we love saving. Saving's amazing. Truthfully. Now, we can see here that that commission was finished. I say commission and it's not a commission. You're shipped then. And your digital delivery. But we didn't put dates in here. So now the cells are red, which could make it instantly stand out to you that you missed something. Now when I put a date in here, color goes away because we gave it what we needed. We knew that same day that they ordered today, we also shipped on the same day. And if there's no tracking, well then you can put whatever you want in here. I just put in NA when there's something that doesn't apply. Or if you simply want to just leave it blank, you totally can. That's totally up to you. But as you are going along and entering your items, so we'll say that we have another coffee. Now the cool thing here is that we only have two things in this list, right? I've currently typed both of them in here, right? So if I type the K or a P, it wants to autocomplete it. If I hit tab, it types it for me. I don't have to type the rest of it. Same thing with PayPal. If I type a P, I click tab, there it is. It just did it! Because it's been previously typed. The thing is that Excel is really good on pattern recognition. It's fantastic at it. It may not do what you want every time, but it's really good at finding patterns. So we could say we have another PayPal order, and this one is order 5239. And this person ordered another sticker. Instantly popped up over here was our item cost. They ordered one. They ordered it with today's date. Now I'm just going to show simply, but we'll just cycle through the different items here. So we could say that it went ordered, in progress, to then being shipped. Excel won't forget to add our coloring. It's going to do that for us because we set the rule to those conditions. Now, I do have a refunded status here, right? And it's ugly to look at. And it does have an item cost of $5 on this Rampilla sticker that was ordered. That's perfectly fine. If you would prefer this to actually show up with the $0 amount instead of the cost of the item, we could do that. We would have to add it, though, as an item that was purchased. So let's do it, just for an example, right? Let's swing back over to our inventory, and we are going to add the return as an item with $0 amount. We're going to come back over. And then, just like that, since we made it a list, we declared it, and we pointed to it. There it is. It's here. It's waiting for us. Select it. And just like that, item cost is 0, because we chose 0. We still have our order number, so we now know whose item that was refunded. And if you had a tracking number, well, that's where it would still show up. So then you can refer back to it if you needed it. If you simply don't want that, to know that you've lost $5, well, you can leave that there. It's totally up to you. So, we have a little bit more to this example, and this is the actual running inventory part, right? So, we know that we've sold some stickers, we're going to sell some stickers, we got a commission out the door, but we also know that based on our inventory, we only have a limited quantity of these items. So, let's build out something that'll help us out with that. So we're going to have our inventory. We'll have our item name. I'm going to highlight both of these and double tap. The auto expands. And then we're going to bump up the fruit here on inventory. We're going to merge and center. Yeah, we'll give it a style. Why not? We'll give it like heading 3. And we'll bump up the font, make it a little bigger. Click, 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 click. Okay. So as it stands right now, I'm going to grab one of our items here. Double click to expand. And now we get to cook up the magic. What fun we have. Let me see what we're doing to make this happen. So we need to do okay. There's multiple pieces involved, so we're going to build this in 2 steps. We're going to do it in the same cell, but I'm going to show you that this is another one of those examples where we're going to double stack on a formula to give us what we want. So as we know, I'll do an equal symbol, and we will do a, it's going to be a conditional sum, isn't it? Sum, yes, so it's going to be sum if, so there's 2 sums here. Sum if, just give me the tool things as cells. Yes. So you can actually arrow up and down when you start typing to see the hints as to what both of these are for, right? So sum if adds the cells specified by a given condition. Sum ifs is if there's more than one condition. And in our case, we only have the one condition. We're just going to use the sum if twice. Our range is going to be over here. And we're going to look at our description, a comma. Our criteria is going to be the name of our item, a comma. And then the range we're going to add is our quantity. I'm going to close that and click enter. And that gives us half of what we need. We know that we have a total of 20 of the lab coat sticker. If I come back over here, we see that, right? And it's looking pretty good. And that doesn't take into account yet for the amount that we've handed out, right? So lab coat sticker, if we take a look here, I could filter this and click OK. And see that there's only 2 that we've handed out, right? So that number shouldn't be 20 that I'm hiding because I have a filter applied. It should be 2 less. So we are now going to subtract from this the quantity we've handed out. And then we're just going to end up using the sum if again. So we're going to do a minus symbol, sum if, And then our range is going to be our items purchased, comma, criteria, again, is going to be the name of the item, comma, and then the quantity that we sold. And then I'm going to close that and click enter. And just like that, we now have what we need. We sold 2 of those stickers, and we got 18 left. And if I come in here and I change this to say 10 was in that order, well, I gave out half of the 20, so now we've got 10 left. Now, the nice thing about Excel is that it does have that pattern recognition. We clearly want the rest of our inventory to be in the inventory section, but we do not have to rebuild this formula each and every time. We're going to use some of Excel's wizardry to build the other ones. So I'm going to swing back over to inventory, and I'm going to grab our other 2 options that we sell, copy it. I'm going to click in K4, right click, and then paste as values. Oops, I got lab coat sticker. I wanted the commission one. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to grab all of these, copy, paste over top of that. Now, let's switch to a 1 because now it's looking up for our commissions. But here's the cool thing. That formula, I can reuse. I can grab it, pull down, and let go. And just like that, I now have the remaining amount for all the other ones. Because in the art commissions, we could see that we have one that we got out in the field, and we had 2 available to us. Let's swing it back over here. We could see that, right? We had 2. Next one, you got 1 left. With that, we did the same thing with the other ones, right? So Ram pillow stickers, we had, I think it was a total of 10 of those. Yeah, 10 of those. And if we check that out, I'm looking down here. You highlight on anything in Excel. If it's a number, it'll give you the average, the count, and the sum of all those items. We had a total of 10, and by summing them, there's a total of 6 that we've gotten out, including the one that was refunded. We could just simply assume we didn't get that back. And we also know that if you take 6 from 10, you get 4. So we know that the formula is working. Part of the reason why we do this is to check what we built as actually doing what we anticipate it to be doing. Because it doesn't make any sense to build something and not check it. I have notes here. I prepared this ahead of time, and I still managed to screw it up. Why? Well, because Excel's hard, and it takes time to get familiar with it. And the more you use it, the more it becomes familiar. Things will start to stand out. I'm going to save again, because saving is important. Okay. There's a couple other things we're going to do here, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, as I had mentioned, when it comes to the quantity left, right, you might want the cells to jump out at you once they've reached a certain quantity, so you know you need to order more. Or in this case, with a commission, you know, there's 1 left out of the 2. Would you like to provide more? Well, if you do, you can update your list, and then you can go on to your Trello or PayPal or however you're letting your audience know you have additional commissions open, right? And then here is where you can centralize them all. In this case, we've got 1 art commission left. So let's say that once we get down to 1, that we want it to stand out, right? So we're only worried about just the quantity changing, so I'm only going to leave the 1 cell highlighted. And I'm going to go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rule, I'm going to go to more rules. So, what are we formatting? The value of the cell, right? There's other options here, but this is perfectly fine as it is. Not everything has to be done with a formula to determine how to format something. And something as simple as a number that you just want to turn a certain color after a certain threshold, you can just do with the builder, right? So we want if the cell value is less than or equal to 1, we're going to turn it red. And just like that, it's red. If I were to add more, so we have more art commissions available. We're a little crazy, so we're going to add 10 available full body slots. Not sleeping anytime soon. Going to have lots of coffee in our lives. When we come back over here, well, now we have a quantity of 11. And it's no longer red. And as we start to creep up on that number, right? So we got 6 left, got 3 left. Boom, we're red again. Okay, I'll make these stand out since there are headers and bold them. Since I'm a sucker for bordering, I'm going to turn on the borders and add a nice box border to make that little guy stand out. Now, we have a problem. If I scroll, there goes our inventory. You can wave a goodbye. You ain't gonna be able to see it. And once you start using the sheet, well, that's not incredibly helpful now, is it? So, we're going to do something called freezing the view. I'm going to click in the cell directly below. I think it's directly below. And I'm going to go to View, and go to Freeze Panes. And I'm going to choose Freeze Panes. And as I scroll down, oh, there are other options there. Now I can go directly up against it. So the thing is with the Freeze Panes is that it allows you to scroll the rest of the workbook, and leaving you able to free to see everything else. So if I actually click in cell A6 and freeze the panes under View, and click Freeze Panes, well then you'll notice our numbers here to the left, right? So we have 5, 6, and 7. I scroll a little bit, we're now at 5, 18, 19, and 20, but we didn't lose our inventory. So as we continue down in the workbook, and we end up having more orders that come over time, we can still see our inventory, but all the cells in between will get temporarily hidden as you scroll along. And that's perfectly fine. Then that way, you don't have to keep scrolling back up to the top to take a look at your inventory. It can follow you. As you add more items to your inventory and this list were to get longer, as you add more options, well then you can choose to freeze and unfreeze the panes to move it down, or you can make it so that your inventory may be partially over here and part of it over here. You can do whatever you want because the formulas can be in any cells. As long as you know what the cells are for, it'll work. So if I were to add, say, another inventory item here, right, and we'll do a heart sticker for $5. Another block of 10. And come back over here. I can actually do border go down so that I don't have to actually make it myself. Control C. Right click, paste. Now the reason I did normal paste, or you could have did Control V, is that it will bring over the formula. I can delete that, so we don't need it. And I'm actually going to clear the formatting on that. Because when you copy and paste things in Excel, things get kind of funny, right? If I highlight this and drag down through, well, it's going to add the bordering, and it's going to jack this up something fierce. So you have to be careful with what you drag and selecting and dragging, because that's something that Excel is going to do. It's going to anticipate you want it to continue to look like the formatting above it. That's a part of the data, or the pattern recognition that gets a little funny. And Control Z, because we don't need all that nonsense. And I'm going to come up here to clear the formats. Click all, clear all. And just like that, we can now move. I'm going to do copy, and I'm going to paste that over here. Throw another box around it. And then there's another subsection of our inventory that's over here. I don't have to put the word inventory above it. That's just simply for looking, for looks. But the same thing happens, is that now I hit the H and it doesn't appear right now, right? But if I hit my list, it's in here, right? A couple other things happen. As you'll notice, this isn't in alphabetical order anymore. When you make your list, it will show your items in the list based on the way you enter them. So I'm going to switch back over to the inventory tab. And I'm going to click the little nugget up here to expand this out, and we're going to sort it A to Z. It's alphabetical now. It kept the cost of each item with its item description, but now when we look at our list, if we so happen to choose the drop down, it's alphabetized. If I just click it, there you go. Now that this actually exists in the list, I'm going to finish entering this one. When I go to enter another one, say we ship this one with PayPal, if I type the H, it wants to auto-complete it because it already exists in the table. And it figures, since that's the only other thing that begins with H in this table, that's probably what I'm going to type. Well, it's correct. That's what I want. And that's also the only other thing that's available that starts with H in my list. Now, Excel doesn't know nor care about that necessarily, that's why we built it that way, but it's going to enforce it regardless. When you see the gray, to save yourself from typing, hit Tab. And just like that, you save yourself from typing. Now as I'm doing that, I'm going to undo that. Our inventory up here is updating as we're kicking along here. Now even though that's not living directly underneath all these other ones, it doesn't matter. Because it's all based on the formula that lives in the bar. And when I click up here, it's the same thing. Rock and roll. It just works. And I'm a save. Who doesn't love saving? I know I do. The only thing that's more important than saving is to back up your stuff. So if you only ever have one copy of your stuff, put a second copy of it somewhere. Because if you lose all this work, you're going to be super sad. No one wants to be super sad. So with that, let me take a look at my notes here. Oh yes, a couple of other items we're going to talk about here before we wrap this up. I'm going to swing back over to inventory, right? So as we know, things happen with our inventory, and it may not be correct anymore. Could be that you accidentally shipped 2 stickers instead of 1 to someone. They got stuck together. Or the order of 20 that you got, isn't actually an order of 20. Say that, you ordered 20 and they sent you 5, right? It's something, it's jacked up. Or you're like 1 short, right? So you got 19 of them instead of 20, right? Well, we could do a correction using our inventory here, right? So I'm going to do a heart sticker, a quantity of -1, today's date, add a note, we were 1 short on our order, right? Now, since I put a -1 in here, and we swing back over here to our running tracking, our 6 became a 7. So now, without having to touch anything else over here, because we don't have to worry about any of this, just simply our inventory being incorrect, that fixed it. And if I remove that and come back, it's updating it. Now, out of personal preference, I like inventory corrections to have a color. I like them to be yellow. So, we're going to do that. We're going to do a conditional formatting. And we're going to say, oh, we don't have to do it that way. We're going to do it the easier way. We're going to say format only the cells that contain... Or no, I lie. We do have to do it this way because we're going to do the whole row. So we're going to say that if $symbol B1 is less than 0, then we want the cell to be yellow. So anytime there's a correction that's a negative number, you'll get that color, right? So 0 wouldn't do us any good, right? We had 10 that appeared, great. We had 5 that went missing. I like to add comments, which is why I added the comment field here. But that instantly will stand out to you now, because you know it was a correction. And now that I did 5, I could say we were actually 5 short now. And just like that, our heart sticker inventory is now only 2. So, we have a way to handle our corrections as we see fit. And we can also date them all, You figure it out a couple days afterwards when you put in the appropriate date so you can keep track of yourself. Because the reality is that the more stuff you want to keep track of, if you don't start to record it somewhere, you're going to get lost in your own stuff. Especially when you have boxes of merch, if you're doing something like that, if you've got multiple packs of stickers, are you really going to sit there and thumb through all the stickers? Well, I mean, you can, but it's up to you. I prefer to have some way to keep track of the madness that goes on behind the scenes. A few other things I'm going to note is that I purposely did not put names or addresses or any other personally identifiable information in this sheet. There is simply an order number. Did that by design. I prefer not to put personally identifiable information into sheets if I don't need to. In the case of something like this, if you wanted to use maybe an abbreviation or a username for whoever the order's for instead of an order number, I think that's perfectly fine. But the reality is, if this sheet were to get lost, and your laptop got stolen, if the device isn't password protected, or even if it is and they pull the hard drive and they pull your stuff off, well, there is now the names and addresses for everybody who's ordered stuff from you. Not so good. So, with just something that's anonymous as an order number, well, you don't really have to worry about people's personally identifiable information or running around in the internet causing additional chaos. Because no one wants to wake up and say, oh no, my stuff! What do you mean it's gone? It can't be gone! You can't do this to me! No, not do that. Because then once you get in contact with the people, you have to tell them, Your stuff's gone. I'm sorry. I have it no longer. There's nothing I can do. You don't have to have that conversation. So overall, 10 for 10. Try your best not to do that. It makes everything easier. If you accidentally misplace a sheet, then it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your world. It's not the end of anybody else's world. It's fine. And the example I did with the wedding invitation tracker, I put names and addresses in that because that's simply something that was to keep track of all that information. And it was relevant to the example. If you're going to send a bunch of thank you cards, then, you know, you can have that. But I recommend not to leave that information just laying around. It's pretty much what it boils down to. Excel actually has some nifty stuff to it as well. Is that if you have sheets that you know that you want personally identifiable information to be in, you can password protect the sheet, which I will show. So let me find the appropriate screen this is on. So you're going to look at me for a moment while I find this. Let's see, where does that live? That lives in... It lives in here. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so under our file menu, it lives in this little green tab in the upper left-hand corner. I'll click on that. That's going to kick out the document properties, and there's this big old button here that says password protect. I'm going to click it. Down here is the encrypt with password option. If I click this, it's going to require a password to open and look at the workbook. You have to type the password twice, once to enter it, and the second to confirm it, and then that is permanently attached to the workbook. So that every time you open it after that, you're going to have to put in the password. There is no ability to recover said password. So don't lose it. Because if you lose it and you don't have the password, you ain't getting back in. You're going to have a bad time. But it's an excellent way to keep personally identifiable information a little bit more managed. It also keeps track of who has access to the information. Because if you're required to put in a password before you can even open the workbook, well then there you go. Prying eyes, stay away. Okay, so I have one other item I would like to cover, and that is going to be protecting your formulas. So, as it stands right now on this particular sheet, we've got formulas that are over here, on the left, on the right, and we've also got a formula in here for our item cost. Well, here's something we don't want to do. We don't want to accidentally erase one of these formulas, and then it's not going to calculate anymore. Because if I delete this, then it's going to break. We don't want to do that. So, let's set ourselves up for success here to prevent ourselves from injuring ourselves. So, by default in Excel, when you lock a spreadsheet for editing, all the cells are considered protected. Protected means that once the sheet is locked, you can't edit a protected cell. So, the cells we're going to fill out on this sheet, we need to unprotect. So, I'm going to highlight A all the way over to tracking, and I'm going to exclude item cost. This is a formula we have no business editing it, so we're not going to. We're actually going to take away our ability to edit it. With these cells selected, I'm going to right click and go to Format Cells. I'm going to go to the Protection tab, and I'm going to uncheck the locked. Click OK. Now, I've now unprotected everything from A over to H. Everything else that I didn't unlock, which is just those on just this one sheet, I didn't touch anything on the Inventory tab. And the locking I'm going to do on this particular sheet only happens on this sheet. Any of the locking you add to a sheet is independent of each individual sheet within the workbook. I'm going to go to Review, Protect Sheet. Now, this box at the top here is the important one. Protect Worksheet and contents of locked cells. Once the cell's locked, you can't edit it. So that's why we unlock the stuff we're actually going to be editing, which is the orders we're going to enter. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually password protect this. You don't have to. People can still open the workbook, view its contents, but they wouldn't be able to change your formulas without putting in the password. And it's just a simple case of, and just a simple example of not harming ourselves. I'm not going to bother putting in a password because we don't really need it. And click OK. Now, the button up here switched to the word unprotect sheet, because now the sheet is protected. What that means is I can click in items cost. You can see the formulas up here. I can't edit it when I click up here. I get a warning saying that the cell you're trying to change is on a protected sheet. You need to unprotect it, and you may potentially need a password. We didn't choose a password, so there's no harm in this. I could just click that button to unprotect the sheet. But here's the thing. These other cells are protected now. I hit delete. It wouldn't let me delete it. I can right click. I can't even choose the delete option. It's not there anymore. Because it's protected. Same thing should happen with these too. Yep, can't do it. Won't let me do it. It tells me to go away. Probably leave your life. Move along. Well, we have these as lovely formulas. But we want to be able to enter our stuff, so let's enter another order. Another PayPal order. And we have another heart sticker order. And they ordered one. Look at that. Heart sticker order switched down to one. We had two. I'm going to do it again. Bloop. Bloop. Nailed it. Today's date. We shipped it because we're speedy like that. Today's our fulfillment date. We have a tracking number. We don't have one. I can still enter everything I need into these sheets. Or excuse me, into these cells. But we've protected all of the formulas we made. So now we can't accidentally destroy our formulas that we spent all this time building and testing. Because it's no good to lose your stuff. Just like we save. Like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to click the buttons tab. Boom. I saved it. It's amazing. Everything over here on this sheet is all still unlocked. So if I come up here, I can remove PayPal. It's going to let me. I don't want to, because it's one of my options I need. But that just goes to show that you see the Protect Worksheet button says Protect over here, right? And if I switch back, it says Unprotect Sheet. Now, since I didn't put a password on this, I can just click it. And now these are editable again. I can right-click. I can go up here. I can ruin my life and delete that, so now I don't know how many of those I have. I'm going to hit Control-Z to put it back. I'm going to undo my last action. And now I put the formula back. But by simply protecting the sheet and declaring what I want it to be editable, we now saved ourselves from ourselves. Because there's nothing worse than losing stuff that you spent all this time on putting together. You know, other than me talking to myself with complete silence for the first 15 minutes, we've been here for an hour and a half. Well, here's the reality of this. That would be so sad to lose all that work. You don't want to do that to yourself. So, it sets you up for some success. You know, doesn't hurt too bad. It's a lot, yes. But now we have something we can use. So the biggest thing with Excel is that when you're building something that you plan on using for the future, it takes a lot of time to set it up the way you want it. And you may not know the way you want it. This is an example I procured from just the people who I've seen in the community. You know, I see commissions by Snuffles the Dragon. Reese is another suitor. She does commissions. Fantastic beans. And they may have multiple places that they do the commissions. And I see that. And that's perfectly fine. But if you wanted a way to centralize that, well, this is just simply one way to do it. With that, I'm open to questions if there are any, as I grab a drink. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to close that out. And I am going to promptly yeet us off to somewhere else now. Please stand by, and then I will see you all next Wednesday. Let me see who's online. Yeah. Ha! Speaking of said dragon, I'm going to yeet us over there. Up, and away.